Okay, so picture this. It's October 10th, 2025, and a political earthquake just sent massive shockwaves through Japan, ending a quarter century of stability. Now, if you're a global investor, the ground has just shifted right under your feet. Understanding this new landscape is absolutely critical, and we're going to start with the market's immediate gut reaction. And that first tremor, it was felt almost instantly in the markets. You're looking at Nikkei futures, which trade even when the stock market is closed. And they just plunged by 1,180 yen. I mean, this wasn't just a minor dip, no way. This was a clear vote of no confidence from the market. The message was loud and clear. The era of predictable Japanese policymaking is over. So, what was the epicenter of that earthquake? It's this. After 26 long years, the ruling coalition between the Liberal Democratic Party, you know them as the LDP, and its partner, Komeito, has officially ended. Now, this wasn't just any political alliance, it was the very foundation, the bedrock of predictable policymaking in the world's fourth largest economy. And now, it's gone. So why does the end of one political partnership matter so much? To really get why this is such a shock, you've got to understand the foundation it was all built on. For more than a quarter of a century, this alliance was Japanese politics. You know, what made this coalition seem so unbreakable was just how long it lasted. It was formed way back in 1999 to bring some stability after a really chaotic decade. It survived different prime ministers, economic crises. It even survived a brief stint in opposition. Then it came back stronger than ever in 2012 and really defined an entire era of politics. But then in 2023, you start to see the cracks, and those cracks would ultimately lead to the final break in 2025. So how in the world did two parties with very different ideologies manage to stay together for so long? The answer? Well, it lies in this brilliantly effective, you could almost say symbiotic relationship. Okay, so at its heart, the whole alliance was a pretty simple but really powerful bargain. On one side, you have the LDP, Japan's big conservative party. They got access to this incredibly organized and reliable voting bloc from Komeito's backer, the Soka Gakkai religious group. And these votes, they were often the deciding factor in tight elections. In return, Komeito, a much smaller party, got huge policy influence. They got the power to push their own agenda and, maybe most importantly, to act as a brake on some of the LDP's more aggressive ambitions. And believe me, Komeito's influence, it was very real. They were the driving force behind key welfare policies, like expanding child allowances. And remember when the national consumption tax went up? It was Komeito that dug in its heels and won a reduced rate for food items to help out families. On top of that, for decades, they held the powerful and budget-rich post of Minister of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. That let them deliver real, tangible benefits to their supporters. All right, so after 26 years of this seemingly perfect arrangement, what went wrong? Why the political divorce? Well, it starts with a standoff over something that sounds a bit dry: political financing. So, the official story, the reason they gave everyone, came down to a fight over political finance reform. See, after a bunch of scandals, Komeito demanded tough new rules to limit corporate donations and make everything more transparent. But the LDP, they kind of balked, only offering to consider the changes. And for Komeito, that just wasn't good enough. It was the final straw. But here's the thing, that whole politics and money issue, as important as it was really just the trigger. The real crack, as analysts are pointing out, was way deeper. It was a fundamental clash of values that had been growing for years. And, well, they just couldn't paper over it anymore. And right here, you can see the gap that just became unbridgeable. On one side, you have the LDP's new leadership under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, pushing this platform of conservative nationalism, all about defense, self-reliance, with a pretty skeptical view on immigration. This was in direct conflict with Komeito's bedrock principles of peace, tolerance, and coexistence. For Komeito to support this new direction would have been a betrayal of everything they stand for, so they chose to walk away. So, the divorce is final. What now? Well, now we have to look at the consequences, and they are huge. Komeito's departure has completely redrawn Japan's political map. We are entering a new and, let me tell you, highly unpredictable era. Okay, the most immediate impact is just simple math. It's about counting seats in parliament. Without Komeito's seats, the LDP falls way short of that magic number of 233, which is the majority you need to pass laws in the powerful lower house. So for the first time in over a decade, Japan has a minority government. What this means is the LDP now has to go shopping for votes on every single bill. And the options? They're complicated. You've got potential partners like the Democratic Party for the People, the DPFP, and Nippon Nation Nokai. And yeah, they might align on some things like defense, but then they're on completely different planets on other issues, like fiscal policy. This creates a huge risk of legislative gridlock and, well, policy paralysis. Okay, so here's the million-dollar question, right? If you're an investor, how in the world do you navigate this new uncertain environment? What should you be watching for? The biggest risk for the market is that all this political instability leads to one of two bad outcomes. Worst case, we get policy paralysis where absolutely nothing gets done. The other extreme is that a weak government might be forced into these fiscally irresponsible spending deals. Pork barrel politics where they trade local projects for votes just to pass a budget and stay in power. And that could seriously jeopardize Japan's fiscal health. So, with that in mind, here's a simple 3-point checklist to help guide your thinking. First up, political stability. Is the LDP actually going to form a stable new governing framework, or is this minority government thing going to drag on and on? Second, the quality of economic policy. Are the policies getting passed aimed at real long-term growth, or are they just short-term political giveaways? And third, and this is crucial, never lose sight of corporate earnings. Because at the end of the day, profits drive the stock market. Strong corporate fundamentals can and often do override a lot of political noise. And all of this really boils down to one final critical question you need to be asking yourself. Is all this political drama just short-term noise that's eventually going to fade away? Or is it a fundamental signal of a more unstable, more unpredictable Japan, one that actually changes the long-term investment case? Figuring out the difference between the two, that's going to be the key to successfully navigating everything in the weeks and months ahead.